Hello, hello, good evening. How's everybody doing? Thank you for joining me tonight live. As y'all can see, I'm back home. Let me know if the sound is okay. When I tested it, it worked fine, but sometimes those things change. All right. Tonight, y'all, we're going to talk about travel, which is apropos as the name of this channel is Picky Girl Travels the World. Um, did y'all know that 64% travelers are women? I'm sure you probably knew that, probably from your own experience, either traveling or being in various online spaces for travelers. I know I've noticed that those spaces tend to be very, very female heavy as opposed to having lots of men in them. But before we get into like what's going on with me, let me introduce myself in case there are some new folks here. Maybe the YouTube algorithm served me up to them and they want to know what they're in for. Welcome to the Picky Girl Nation. I am the Picky Girl in Chief. My name is Adelia Borshade. I am a financial educator and I am co host of Reclaim the Retreat. Just got back from a Reclaim retreat yesterday. We were in El Salvador. This was our third retreat there. We have one more retreat in El Salvador this year, but we have two others in different locations. 8 years ago, I've always been picky in some way, shape, or another. But 8 years ago, I got really picky about how I was going to live my life. And as a result, I made some very big changes about how I was living that life. And here I am now living and thriving in Mexico City, a place I consider to be home, while I help other women find a way to live life on their terms. On this channel, we talk about the work I do empowering women to take control of their finances and their futures, as well as my travels. I am an avid solo traveler. I am also the admin for a solo travel group called Picky Girls Travel Solo on Facebook. If any of this sounds like your kind of party, you are in the right place. Be sure to subscribe. That way, YouTube knows you like my content and will make sure that it shows up in your feed. Okay. Um, I saw several comments in here. I wasn't sure how this particular topic was going to be received. But this was the thing that was pressing on me, so I decided to talk about it. I also saw, I think it was, I should have started Simi. Uh, I feel like I'm forcing myself to travel these days. I too know that feeling, and I don't like it. I don't like it, y'all. Um, but yeah, just got back yesterday from I was in El Salvador. Okay, a retreat is 7 days, and I went a couple days early. So I think I was in El Salvador like 10 days. And if you remember, if you've been here, you know that maybe 4 days, 4 or 5 days before that, I just got back from the artist uh, residency in Oaxaca. So 2024 has started out fairly busy when it comes to travel. I will be here about a week before I head back out. And it's kind of like that for the next 4 months. And I, I'm having some feelings about it, and those feelings aren't super great. I've mentioned before on this channel that I used to have insatiable wanderlust. What is that meme that's going around talking about like people have no tripophobia, the fear of not having a trip booked? That very much was me. Things were not right in my world if I did not have somewhere to go every month. And that grew to be an international trip almost every month. And then that grew to multiple trips a month. So, what I'm feeling now is very different. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with y'all is because I think sometimes it can seem like we're not allowed to change our minds. Like once you commit to something, you have to stick with it. And as my dear friend Stephanie Perry says all the time, uh, quitting is for winners. Like giving up, quitting, pivoting, all of that is recognized over here. But my wanderlust was such that, when I made those big changes in my life I talked about in the intro, 8 years ago, 8, 9 years ago, number 1 thing on that list was that I was going to live a travel-centered life. That I was like that became one of my biggest saving priorities. That became like everything was geared like when I downsized, how the things I owned after I got divorced, you know, so much about my life down to like how I buy facial moisturizer. I don't buy anything in a package that's more than 100 milliliters because I need to be able to travel. And of course, I got a travel carry on. So I went through all of this trouble, all of this work to create a travel centered life. And I used to be or I say used to be. I don't know if I should be using the past tense yet. But if you if you've been around me at all, it's actually kind of wild to watch it happen. Like I might come across something on Instagram or on Facebook, or I get an email talking about a trip, and my first thought is, let me see if the dates work. And if the dates work, I'm booking it. That I generally don't say no to travel. And it doesn't matter if it's domestic, if it's international, it doesn't really matter where it is, including places that I don't love, like areas with super hot climates. I'm known for always being down to travel. A dear friend of mine, uh, got a was her husband filed for divorce like right before a big milestone birthday. And his milestone birthday had been the previous year. She'd done it up and all of that, thinking we're going to do it big for her birthday. And then he's like, oh, by the way, I want a divorce. And she reached out to me and she was like, I can't do this milestone birthday and not travel. And she knew to hit me up because she was like, if there's anybody who's going to be down to travel wherever, it's Adelia. And she was not wrong. She was not wrong. So I I've been that person, and I've got this reputation as somebody who will travel anywhere, pretty much, who never says no to a trip. And now, in my big fours, almost my big fives, um, now I want to be at home. I actually got homesick on a trip recently, and that Y'all, I ain't never been homesick in my life, not even as a child. I have always been about that travel life. So, this seems to be kind of like a new stage for me in life. Um, I don't wanna be gone. I wanna be in my house. Is am I alone in this? It is quite possible. It could be. I was thinking about that today. It could be like travel burnout. Um, because you can get burned out of a lot of things. And so maybe that's what I'm experiencing. Maybe I'm experiencing travel burnout. The wonderful teacher says travel has become exhausting. Oh my gosh, it is so exhausting. So exhausting. And I think it used to be. So I was just talking about this. I'm trying to think of what we were doing in El Salvador, and I started. I started. Somehow we got on the topic of like weird places or random places we've slept, and y'all, the number of airports I've slept in a variety of different ways, and I'm not talking about airports that necessarily have like sleep pods or sleep areas or that kind of stuff. And when I traveled before, like that was just part of the adventure because what mattered to me was getting to the place, getting to travel and have the adventure. Um, but if you told me now that I had to have a 12-hour layover overnight in the San Pedro Sula airport, which does not which was basically us all fighting for places to sleep in the food court. And I had to sleep sitting up with my head down on a table. Like that holds no attraction for me now. Um, yeah, the way my back is set up, the way my neck is set up now, the thought of the things I used to do just so I could travel, just so I could go. The thought of doing some of those things now, whew. Um, so this is definitely a shift in for me. I'm feeling that. Like I said, I got homesick and I ain't never been homesick in my life. Never. Um, and really what I think it's coming to, and several of you have mentioned this in the chat, is um travel is a hassle. Travel is a pain now. And yes, we've got to acknowledge that in a COVID world, and dealing with the repercussions of what happened in 2020 and the impact on, airlines and hotels and all of that, and many of their refusals to like restaff fully and that sort of like that adds to how horrible travel is now. Absolutely, it does. And I'm very much feeling that the juice is not worth the squeeze. It is that the amount of hassles that I am having to deal with or that I am encountering, that I'm experiencing, I'm just kind of like, where I could be? At home in Mexico City in that apartment I am paying for. Like being at my house in my bed is so much more attractive. And yes, you are right, wonderful teacher, and not to mention the people. It is it's something, and I think it is because it is such a huge pivot from how I approached travel and how I felt about travel previously. Um, it is that's I think was what's really striking me. It's harder when you're traveling for work or non-rest periods that can make it exhausting and less adventure. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Cheryl, I think you're right. overwhelmed, you just moved to, you need to chill a couple weeks. I do. But here's the problem. I don't have a couple weeks to chill. Now initially, and this is uh Ivana, who is the other co-host of Reclaim the Retreat. She calls me on my bullshit all the time because since she's known me, I will say things like, I want to be at home. And then it's like, ooh, look at this trip that such and such is sponsoring. Let me figure out how I'm going to go. Because really, I was home for December. So basically, I was home for 6 weeks, December, part of January. But prior to that, I traveled for about 2 months straight. And then once I started traveling this year, I had 3 weeks in Oaxaca. I had the retreat in El Salvador last week. Initially, I was going to be home, but my daughter hit me up and needs me to come babysit for a week. And my life is such that I can still work, wherever. So my week at home, chilling and relaxing, instead of getting to do that, I get to go watch three kids between the ages of 8 and 2, something I have not done in a really long time. So there won't be any relaxing then. And then when I get back, I have my birthday trip because a birthday with no trip, like what is that? And then we have another retreat in April in North Carolina. And then in May, I'm going to South Africa and Zimbabwe and Botswana and maybe Namibia. And so that was going to be it. And then somebody was hosting a special event in June, and now I'm going to that. So I won't really get a chance to sit still for a couple of weeks, for a few months. And it is my own making. I cannot blame anybody else. I did this to myself, but it's still kind of not fun. And travel is supposed to be, at least for me, travel is supposed to be fun. Um, so yeah. Okay. Oh gosh, Cindy, this sounds exhausting. 15-hour trip, time zone change, 7 hours, house hunting, moving in, living, working in my third language. I know you are exhausted. I know you are exhausted. All right. Yvette says travel burnout is real. I came down with that in August 2023 after 18 years of nomadic living. Now I just want to nest in my own bed. I can only go for 10 days now, if that. I just want my home. Okay. So you feeling me on this because that's the other thing. When I was working a regular job, um, I kept like waiting for the time when I would be able to travel months on end and not have to do short trips and medium length trips and all that. And now, 2 weeks, I am like, I gotta get home. I've had enough fun. I gotta get home. So I feel you on not being gone more than 10 days. Because of the dog, I made a rule for myself that I would not, if I didn't bring her with me, I would not be gone more than 2 weeks. Um, so that has helped some, although I was in Oaxaca for 3 and it felt like an eternity. I mean, it was a good experience, but I kept thinking, I really want to be at home. I really want to be in my bed. Uh, um, I, F doctor, I know that. I know that. But it worked out because I was actually considering going to Houston because the primaries are at the beginning of March, and those of you who've been on the channel for a minute know that I tend to like to go vote in person because the state of Texas does not make it easy to vote from a distance. So I was already considering the possibility, although my version was like fly in, first flight in the morning, fly out, last flight at night. Um, and so it's the youngest. I have only seen him twice since he was born. So this'll he has no clue who I am. So this'll give us some time to hang out. But yes, I do know that yes and no are complete sentences. And I think she realizes she's kind of like used up her free ask for at least this year, probably. Um, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I see several of y'all are like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds exhausting." It does to me now. Now, initially, when I'm saying yes to these things, it doesn't. It sounds great, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get to this place. I'm gonna go get to see this." And, now I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know." Uh, so the hassles of travel, delayed flights, possibly having a canceled flight. Uh, let's not forget the prices of flights right now. Stupid expensive, particularly if you don't want to take the risk of having a connection or you're trying to limit your connections and your what do you call those layovers, the length of your layovers. That's gonna cost you extra. Just everything seems so so hard. So, I'm really at a point where I'm just kinda like, "You know what? I could just stay home." Like, because here's the thing, previously, y'all know, I was a geography teacher. I love cultures. I love going other places, and although I have never been one of those people who was like, "I need to visit every country in the world," if I'm I was of the mind, if it happened, great, but, like, pretty much any place. I'm like, "Yeah, I'd like to visit, that's on my list." Now, I can't say that I really even have a "I want to visit" list. We were having this conversation the other night about, like, like, trying to think about what other travel can happen in 2024, what might 2025 look like, and I used to have a list of places I'm trying to get to. Um, I don't have that anymore. Like, honestly, um, there's now there I okay, I will amend that. There are some places like I would like to go to visit the stands, like Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, but my desire to visit those places aren't isn't enough to make me deal with the hassles involved with getting visas, finding flights, figuring out how the hell I get there from Mexico City. Mexico City has a international airport. I can get a lot of places. I just try not to connect in the United States. And if I avoid the US, that makes things a little bit more interesting, a little less easy. Um, and so there are a handful of countries, but there are no countries for the most part that I feel like if I don't get to this place, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to have like deathbed regrets or anything like that. And that's a change. That's different because like I said previously, if it was possible to go, I was trying to be there. And so that's a big shift. Actually, when we had this conversation the other night about like where would you like to go? I was struggling coming up with a place that I felt was worth the hassle. Um, it it was a very short list. Like, I don't know if y'all remember, I mentioned this before. Australia, particularly Sydney, is one of the places I'd want to go because the peanut butter bar is there. It is a restaurant, a peanut butter restaurant. I would like to go there. I have tried to get to Sydney, Australia 3 times and failed. Um, I'd like to get there. So really and truly, I would be going to Australia solely to visit that restaurant. Now, of course, because of the time and the expense involved in getting to Australia, I would need to stay 2 weeks, maybe more. Mia can't come, so that might be a trip that has to wait until she's not here anymore because she's about to be 15. Because island countries generally are going to have the most rigorous rules about letting animals come in. So going to Australia, Mia can't come, but getting all the way over there and paying all that money is like, okay, this might be the one time I'm doing this. Let me see everything. And that's probably going to be a more than a 2 week trip. So I would like to do that at some point, but am I feeling pressed? Like I got to make that happen in 2024? No, no. Um, I would like to see the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. That initially that was on the docket for early 2024, but a lot of things changed in 2023 that removed it because the plan was to take Mia, my miniature schnauzer, with me there. Those are two things that I would be disappointed if I never got to do. Um, but I was like racking my brain trying to think of, well, where else would I like to go in Africa? Like I told you, in May, I will be in the southern part of Africa. That is primarily the part that I wanted to visit. So, outside of that, I just couldn't get excited. And then the thought of traveling to Asia, ugh, I probably still have a bit of PTSD from my time living in China. But the thought of having to sit on a plane for as long as it would take and dealing with the stark difference between the life I'm used to and being in Asia, I just don't know that I got the stomach for it. Because initially, I wanted to visit Japan before I came back to this part of the world. That was a 2020 plan. We all know how 2020 turned out. So when I was finally able to leave China, I came back to Mexico and yeah, I cannot, and I really like Thailand, but I can't get excited about the effort and the work it would take to get over there. Then the thought of, okay, if I'm on that side of the world and I'm trying to work, the extra hoops I got to jump through to like get things timings right and all of that. So, I've I've been to almost all of Western Europe. There's only a handful of places that might pique my interest in Eastern Europe. None of them do I feel strong enough or compelled enough to be like, oh my gosh, if I were to die and not visit this place, oh, that would hurt my feelings. Now, let me kind of take a little aside here. In 2020, this is pre-COVID, while I was living in China and I was planning my big trip around Europe for like a month, I ended up adding Ukraine to that list because somebody talked me into going to Poland, and I was like, oh, bam, from Poland to Ukraine, that's not a big deal. And then if you're going to be in Ukraine, what about Chernobyl? And I was on the fence about going to Chernobyl, and I'm glad I did it because the world we live in now, and it's funny because it was on the way back from Chernobyl that I got the text message from my airline saying that they were ceasing all flights to Canada and they were not going to be able to return, and not to Canada, to China, and I wouldn't be able to get back to China. This is like January 2020, right, as things were starting to explode in China. And I am glad that when that opportunity was presented to me, I took it. But like now, I can't get excited about too much in Eastern Europe, especially because there's a war there, that sort of thing. Um, and even in Latin America, I can't get too super excited. So that's a huge, huge difference. Because every place excited me before, and now I'm just kind of like, eh, eh. Um, like one of my my 2019 goals. I got this tattoo right here when I was in Indonesia by a guy who was a native of Bali but lived in Kuala Lumpur. It was the traditional poke tattoos, and there was some work I wanted him to do. And one of the things I was going to do, I was going to hit Japan before I left Asia and came back to this part of the world. And I was going to swing through Kuala Lumpur to get a tattoo. But Adelia of 2024, like I have just kissed goodbye the thought of getting that man to work on my tattoo, because I can't get excited about flying all of those hours to Kuala Lumpur to get a tattoo. Whereas previously, that would have been the only excuse I needed to head to Asia. Um, you know, I am content to let things come to me as opposed to creating trips and adventures. I'm much more interested in like I, I'm not going to say I'm more interested in experiences, because travel is an experience, but I think the kind of travel that I can get excited about right now is the kind that is centered around a special event. Like my trip to Southern Africa is with someone who I've been wanting to go on one of their trips. It's a group trip. I've been wanting to go on one of their trips for several years. And so I'm finally getting a chance to do that. I like the artist residency in Oaxaca. That's a special kind of event thing. Or going on a sewing retreat. That's something I got to do last year. I didn't do it this year because I was trying to be good and not say yes to everything. And it turns out that turned out to be a good thing, because had I said yes to that, I would have been traveling for basically 26 out of the 31 days in March. And that I can't do that. That just would have not been great. I'm going to another sewing event this year, a different one that I've never been to, but I've been wanting to go, called Frock Tales. They host them all over the world, where sewists get together. You have cocktails, you have food, and everybody makes the frock that they wear to the party. If there is some super unique cultural experience, like I can get excited about doing that. But outside of that, I I kind of like I could be at home. Um, I could just stay at home. Oh my gosh, Genesis, this sounds horrible. Took me 22 hours to get from Cancun to Houston dealing with Spirit. That should not even be a 3-hour flight. I had the nerve to cancel my 2-hour flight. Exhausting. Yeah, like I don't. My capacity for dealing with that kind of stuff now, it is virtually non-existent. Let me see. Oh, goodness. On my way back from Portugal last April, I caught COVID and had a 10-hour layover in Spain, then Marrakesh to finally get home to Georgia, the most miserable travel area. Still recovering. See, I don't have that in me, which begs the question, um, does this mean that I am going to stop traveling? I don't know for sure, but possibly. I think it's gonna look different. I think there's gonna be a lot of me maybe in Mexico or maybe me doing things that can be done in like 1 or 2 days, you know, uh, take a flight to Guadalajara to go to Tequila and then come back the next day. Because trying to do that, the amount of tequila you drink in Tequila, I don't know that you would want to make that a one-day trip, but I could see definitely shorter trips, but I really don't wanna go. I wanna stay home. Um, Orletta, sounds like you finally found home. I think so, but here's the thing, I didn't know I was looking, um, because I had always been somebody who traveled, who was hardly home, always somewhere, and so it never occurred to me, probably until about a year or 2 ago, that maybe, just maybe, part of my desire to be gone so much had a little bit to do about, like, not being happy in the place I was, that those 2 things might have been connected. Um, I do have a great space. The apartment I moved from was a great space. The apartment I live in now is a great space. When we walked in the door yesterday, it was like, "I'm home." Okay, I'm so happy to be home. And it wasn't necessary because I'm not somebody who's like, oh, I prefer to sleep in my own bed. Like for the most part, a bed is a bed. I have slept some everywhere in a bed, on the floor, on a table, in a chair. But it was being in my house, being with my stuff, and being away from other people. I think that's what it was. So I think it is going to look different. Maybe you need a travel sabbatical. I think you're right. I think what this is travel burnout, which I didn't think was really a thing. And I sure as hell didn't think it was a thing for me. But I think so. You know, this is obviously a shift that is happening. Um, and you know, it will I wonder also how much my dog's age is playing into that because my best friend and I both our animals are both about the same age. They're hitting about maximum life expectancy for their breed. Um, and what I would rather not happen is for her to pass away while I'm gone. Like, you know, it could happen, but I'd rather be here. So that's probably playing a role in this as well. So yeah, I think there's probably going to be less travel. Probably y'all probably won't notice it because you're gonna be next week when I'm at the airport and I'm posting pictures and I'm talking about how I'm in Houston, y'all are gonna be like, girl, didn't you just say you don't want to travel no more? What are you doing? I am booked pretty solid until through the first week in June. And then after that, um, I don't have anything else in June. I don't have anything booked in July. My oldest granddaughter will come visit me here again, like she did last year for a week or two. That's August. September, we have the Reclaim Retreat in Oaxaca, Mexico. I don't have anything in November. And then we have our final retreat of the year, which will be in El Salvador. That is in December. So that's currently what I have committed to. And I have said both to Ivana. I've said it to Rashida, although neither one of them believe me, and I understand why they don't. I have said to both of them that the trip in June to Chicago Frogtails is kind of my last like trip. I try not to count the retreat so much, but that's still travel. That's still time I gotta be away from my house. Uh I change it. If you change the channel to pick a girl and go lay down, we will be loyal because your experience on worship. But for real though, I do be looking for a place to lay down. But yeah, so I don't think y'all are going to notice a big difference immediately because I do have travel obligations through the 1st of June. But I've hold my friends so that they could hold me accountable, and not so much accountable, but I'm saying it out loud. I'm saying it to y'all now. I said it to them, that I'm not gonna say yes to anything else, um, because I need some stillness in my life. And so probably after June, we're gonna slow things down. So maybe that'll June, July, uh August, maybe that'll be my travel sabbatical. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Um wait, I just saw. Okay. Is the retreat sold out? No. And I'm not sure which retreat you're referring to. The one in April is in North Carolina. It is 4 days. It is April 18th through the 22nd. I believe there are 3 or 4 spots left on the North Carolina retreat. There is still space. I can't remember how many spots, but probably like 6, 8 spots left on the Oaxaca retreat. That is in September 18th through the 24th. And then the final one in El Salvador is December 12th through the 18th. So typically our retreats, Reclaim the Retreat is 7 days, 6 nights. North Carolina is different. It is 4 days, 3 nights. And it has a special theme. It has a special focus. There, we are really honing in on dreaming and dreaming bigger and bolder and getting in touch with our dreaming selves. Because I've told y'all multiple times that is something that I have struggled with as well. So, if you would like to attend, there is still space. There is a link in the description, but you can get all of the retreat information by going to reclaimtheretreat.com. You can get all of that information there. Um, there was another comment. Okay, you found it. Um, Yvette says, I only want targeted travel now. Oops, my screen did something. Must be specific to what I wish to do, maybe trips with my sisters. I won't be responsible for all the planning. That part right there, that part. I can't, I cannot plan. Every trip basically that I have going is one somebody else is doing the planning. If it is on me, and something like, I think women, whether partnered, if you include partnered women, single women, make like 80% of the travel plans. I can't do that anymore. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yes, to answer your question, we do cater to, if you're vegan, you are gluten free, you're vegetarian. If you come to Reclaim the Retreat, we have an option available for you. Um, yeah. So how do I turn that up? Okay. I saw another question in here. So yeah, for me, it is, I don't have to do the work, and there's a specific interest or experience that I will happen, um, that will happen, that's pretty much the travel I'm doing. Last year, last March, for my birthday, I treated myself to the first sorority retreat. It's a group of sewists. You get it, sorority. They had a retreat in the Dallas area, and the thing came out for the retreat this year because I went last year. They were like, you on the special list, you'll get the link first, blah, blah, blah. I saw the dates, and I already had my birthday trip for this year planned. And I saw the dates. While technically it was feasible, probably doing them back to back was going to make me miserable. So I said no. I did not book. Is sold out in like a day, an hour, something like that. And I was like, see, I said no, blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, but we're going to have another retreat the next weekend. And they were like, girl, we saw you didn't get in on this other one. Here, we'll send you the link. And I was like, y'all, like, so I said no. And I feel like I should get some credit for saying no to an event I really wanted to do, but I prioritized these other experiences that I had not had yet. And for me, that's growth. Adelia from 4 or 5 years ago would not have been able to do that. Not at all. So yeah, this is exactly the plan. Right now, my intuition is saying you need to be still. You need to chill. Just hang out at home. So that is what I am going to try to do. I live in what I feel is the greatest city in the world that has a ton of stuff. Like Misty in Jamaica said the other week, that she lives where other people vacation. The same, I could say the same thing. I live in a place where people come on vacation. So low key, if I feel like, oh, I need a little like away travel, there's a ton of stuff that I could do and not have to leave the Mexico City area. So I think I'll be all right. But yeah, I'm gonna try my best to sit still. Because I think that's what I need right now. Um, Other question. Will you get another dog? No. I knew that in 14 and a half years ago when I was gifted Mia. She is my second miniature schnauzer. Uh, my first schnauzer probably had passed away. He had to be put down because he had developed cancer. I had no intentions on getting another dog after him. And had the person who gifted me the dog bothered to ask me that, I would have told them. The people who know me from back when I got Mia remember me saying, I ain't asked for this damn dog. I don't want this dog. But she grew on me, and she's been my home girl for the last 14 and a half years. But no, I'm done. I'm done. So when she decides to move on to greener pastures, I will not have any more pets. Okay. All right. Um, that's it for me, y'all. Um, I am yeah, that's it for me. I don't that's it. I don't I don't want to travel. And I think you are going to see me travel less, which is not it's not a bad thing because, I've talked about it here on this channel about doing things with intentionality. And so the travel that I do participate in will be very intentional because I'm trying to do that with the time that I have here. The remaining time I have here on Earth is to spend it doing the things that I really, really want to do. And not just, and if the thing I want to do right now is to be at home, then that's probably what I need to be doing. Um, this is an interesting question. Have you felt more fulfilled by certain types of travel or destinations in the past? And now that has changed. Y'all know that I do not love the beach. Even though I host a retreat in El Salvador, we have a history of surf class. The ladies learn how to surf. It is in the tropics. We are at all of our workshops are held oceanfront. Um, I don't enjoy that kind of climate. However, I enjoy being at the retreat and facilitating those workshops. Um, I don't know if the destinations I I I don't know, I don't think it's the destinations. What I think there's another element is I don't feel any need to do the things when I get to a particular place. So, when you decide to go someplace, the first thing you do always is Google, things to do in name of the place, right? And I don't feel compelled to do that. This, I would say, probably the last 6 years or so. I very much, when I travel, I do the things that I enjoy in the new place. So, y'all know I am a fan, a lover of hot chocolate, pastries, museums. So wherever I happen to be, I try to engage in those things and I don't feel the least bit sad or like I'm missing out that I didn't go to the place and do the thing that this particular city or country is known for. So that and I have enjoyed that shift because I'm getting to do the things I like to do, but I'm doing it in a different place. I'm always looking for opportunities to, have some cultural exchange, some cultural interaction. If y'all remember back in October, I went to Oaxaca for Day of the Dead, and the experience we had where we actually observed the festivities in a family home like that was incredible. And so I think the quality of the experiences, I like if it can't be like that, if it can't be like meaningful where I'm connecting to people there, I am supporting local business. If it's not like that, no. So like the Instagrammable kind of travel, I have no interest in that. And so I don't think it's more the destinations. I think it's just more me and the way in which I travel and the way I want to travel. So, y'all got any other questions? I saw somebody ask if I made this top. Yes, I did. Um, In theory, I make most of my clothes. Now, that's another problem because if I'm always in the streets, I cannot be sitting at a sewing machine. Uh, so this Sunday, we're going to be doing creative co-working, which for the first time since early January, because I've been in the streets. And because I have lots of fabric that needs to be sewn in my new closet, which is very large. An entire wall, the bottom half of that wall is all fabric. Um, I wait, I can tell on myself right here. Okay, the fabric store that I shop at, for every cut of fabric I get. They give you a card like this that tells you the name of the fabric, the fiber content, how many yards you bought, how you should launder it. Do y'all see every cut of fabric? Do y'all see how many of these cards I have? I got a lot of fabric, and that fabric needs to be sewn. I need some clothes. I need a frock for frock tails in June. So, not being home, not being still, I can make stuff. So that's one of the perks of being back home more, is to be able to make stuff. Um, do I get fabric in Mexico? Not really. I prefer natural fibers, and Mexico prefers polyester. So I don't buy much here. Um, do you think this change will affect your channel? I don't think so. I don't think so. Uh, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Um, any other questions in here? All right. So yeah, so that's what's going on with me. I am embracing stillness. Um, I don't want to travel, and I'm probably going to travel a lot less than I have previously once we get to the second half of the year. Here's this might not sound like a big thing. I don't have any 2025 travel plans. And I know y'all are thinking, but girl, it's just February 2024. That means that in Adelia's world, that means nothing. Generally, by now, there would be something on the calendar for the next year. And I don't have anything. And at this point, I don't anticipate it, but we'll see. We'll see where it comes up. We'll see where it comes up. All right, that's all I got for this evening. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you've been getting served my videos and you're not subscribed, you should really think about subscribing. It helps me. That's a way to support me and this channel and the things that I do. For those watching the replay, thank you for watching this. Feel free to let me know in the comments, your thoughts. If anything's changing for you travel wise. And until next time, bye y'all.